Welcome back. Coinology. The 1990D Lincoln cent is a coin that has been whispered about in collectors' circles, talked about in auction rooms, and searched for by amateur numismatists who dream of finding a hidden treasure in their pocket change. At first glance, it looks like any other penny minted in the United States: small, copper-colored, familiar. But beneath that ordinary surface lies a narrative of history, minting processes, economics, rarity debates, and myths that have grown around its potential value. You may have heard claims that a particular version of this coin could be worth $98 million. Such a figure seems so incredible, so outside the realm of normal coin values, that it demands deeper exploration. What makes this coin interesting? What is its weight? What symbol and design elements does it carry? How did it come to be? Why do some people believe it is worth astronomical sums? And what does the current market truly place as its value? To understand all of this, we must begin by looking at the coin itself, its physical characteristics that define it as a 1-cent piece forged at the Denver Mint in 1990, known officially as the 1990D Lincoln penny. To eye in your hand, the 1990D penny feels light. Like almost all modern U.S. pennies, it weighs exactly 3.11 grams. For decades, that weight has been standard for pennies composed of a copper-plated zinc core, a composition that replaced solid bronze pennies after 1982 because of rising metal costs. The coin's diameter is 19.05 millimeters, practically indistinguishable from pennies minted in years before or after. The smooth, plain edge tells you it is not a silver or gold coin with reading or serrations. Looking closely, you will see the iconic bust of Abraham Lincoln facing right on the obverse, or front, along with the word Liberty to his left, and the year 1990 immediately followed by a tiny letter D, indicating the Denver Mint where it was struck. The coin's symbol, the mint mark, is just that small letter, D. On the reverse, the coin presents a simple depiction of two stalks of wheat arching inward, framing the words 1 cent in United States of America, with the pluribus unum above, a design that numismatists refer to as the wheat penny, a motif used from 1909 until 1958. In 1990, the Lincoln penny had adopted the Lincoln Memorial design on the reverse. That Lincoln embraced by the memorial columns was a symbol of national unity and remembrance. Many people who talk about the 1990D Lincoln cent focus not on its physical characteristics, but on the story, the legend, of an extremely rare variant. According to internet threads, viral videos, and coin collecting forums, there is a claim that a single specimen of the 1990D penny has an error so significant that it might be worth $98 million. This claim spreads like wildfire because the idea of a common coin turning into a fortune is irresistible. People imagine finding such a coin at the bottom of their drawer or in change from a cash register and instantly becoming rich. But what is the basis for these claims? Is there a documented error? Is there a 1990D variant that is actually worth such exorbitant amounts? Or is this narrative part myth and part marketing hype? Before we delve into that, we should step back and consider the history of the Lincoln cent itself, for context is everything in numismatics. The Lincoln cent was first issued in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. It was the first U.S. coin to bear the likeness of an actual historical figure, a departure from allegorical representations of liberty that had dominated earlier designs. Sculptor Victor David Brenner, whose initials VDB even appeared on the reverse of the first issues, created this design. Over time, the Lincoln cent became entrenched in the everyday transactions of Americans, so common that it became deeply familiar, almost invisible. Yet its longevity and recognition made it a favorite of collectors who sought out rare dates, mint marks, and error coins for their collections. The 1990D penny belongs to a family of coins produced during years when the Philadelphia and Denver mints struck millions upon millions of pennies annually. In 1990, production numbers for the Denver Mint exceeded 7 billion pennies, that is billions with a B, and even the most expert coin collectors consider the 1990D to be a common date. A common date coin is one that was minted in huge numbers and has many surviving examples. That normally means lower rarity and a lower market value compared with scarce coins or coins with production mistakes that dramatically reduce their numbers in existence. Yet, for years, collectors have paid attention to small differences, minute variations in strike quality, doubled dies, die cracks, off-center strikes, anything that might make a coin stand out from the billions of others. So far, the standard 1990D penny does not, on its own, qualify as especially rare or hugely valuable. In typical circulated condition, meaning a coin that has been used in everyday transactions, showing wear and tear, a 1990 D Lincoln cent might be worth between face value and perhaps a few cents above face value to a collector. In uncirculated condition, where the coin has sharp details and no significant wear, they might trade for $1 or $2. In graded holders, professional slabbed coins evaluated by services like PCGS or NGC top quality specimens can fetch higher prices, but still within the normal range for a common modern cent. These values are confirmed by actual auction results, coin catalogs, price guides, and dealer listings. There is no documented sale of a regular 1990 D penny anywhere close to millions, let alone tens of millions of dollars. The genesis of the $98 million idea is not based on documented sales or acknowledged rarity within the numismatic community. Instead, it is often rooted in speculative and viral internet content. Some content creators use exaggerated claims to attract viewers, which then spread across social media and enthusiast forums. In some cases, advertisements and clickbait videos suggest that certain coins are rare treasures, prompting viewers to search their change for hidden fortunes. Many of these videos refer to errors, coins with mistakes caused during the minting process, such as doubled dies, overdates, off-center strikes, or wrong planchets. Errors can indeed dramatically increase a coin's value if they are authentic, significant, and verified. For example, a major error on a penny might sell for hundreds, thousands, or in rare, extreme cases, tens of thousands of dollars. But to leap from such known error values into the realm of $98 million is an extraordinary claim requiring extraordinary evidence. To examine whether a 1990 D penny variant could justify such a figure, one must understand what kinds of errors exist and how they affect value. In numismatics, a doubled die error occurs when the die that strikes the coin has a doubled image due to misalignment during the die creation process. This can result in doubling of the date, lettering, or other features, and in dramatic cases, these are highly sought after. For the Lincoln cent series, there are famous doubled die errors. The 1955 doubled die cent, for instance, is one of the most iconic and valuable error coins, with examples selling for hundreds of thousands of dollars. Yet the 1990 D does not have a widely recognized doubled die variety that commands millions. Other errors include off-center strikes, where the coin blank was not properly centered beneath the die, leading to part of the design missing, broad strikes, where the coin was struck outside the retaining collar leading to an expanded planchet, and wrong planchet errors, where a coin is struck on metal intended for another denomination. Some of these error coins can be valuable, depending on how extreme and visually dramatic the error is. But none of these known errors on the 1990 D Lincoln cent are catalogued by major numismatic references as being anything like a unique specimen worth $98 million. The logic behind exaggerated market claims often involves misunderstanding basic principles of rarity and value. Rarity alone does not guarantee value, demand matters too. Even if only one example of a coin exists, a true one-of-a-kind error, if there is no collector demand, the market value might be modest. Conversely, if a coin has a large collector demand but is scarce in high grades, its market value can be very high. The world record values for coins come from a handful of famous and genuinely rare coins with documented provenance and desirability, such as extremely rare gold coins from the 18th and 19th centuries, or unique pattern coins, or early American issues with historic significance. Now, as we continue this deep journey into the world of the 1990 D Lincoln cent, let's slow down and truly understand what makes collectors carefully examine even the most common-looking coin. Because when people hear that a penny could be worth thousands of dollars, or see dramatic claims online about pennies worth millions, it sparks curiosity. How can something made by the billions suddenly become valuable? The answer lies in the details, and with the 1990 D penny, those details begin at the mint itself. The Denver Mint in 1990 was operating at full industrial capacity. Billions of cents were needed for circulation, and the U.S. economy at that time was still heavily cash-based. Vending machines, small purchases, parking meters, and retail transactions required enormous quantities of 1-cent coins. The minting process began with zinc blanks, called planchets, which were punched from metal strips. These zinc planchets were then coated with a thin layer of copper through electroplating, giving the coin its familiar reddish appearance. After plating, the blanks were fed into high-speed presses where obverse and reverse dies struck them simultaneously under immense pressure, imprinting Abraham Lincoln's portrait on one side and the Lincoln Memorial on the other. Because production was so massive, over 4.9 billion coins from Denver alone, quality control was designed for efficiency, not perfection. That means minor variations naturally occurred. Some coins were struck slightly off-center. Some may show minor doubling due to die vibration. Others might have small die cracks, die chips, or weak strikes. Most of these are insignificant and add no value. But occasionally, something unusual slips through, and that's where collectors pay attention. When we talk about value beyond face value, we must focus heavily on grading. In circulated condition, a 1990D penny is generally worth exactly 1 cent. Even in lightly circulated condition, its value remains negligible. But once we enter the realm of uncirculated coins, those that were never used in commerce and retain their original mint luster, things begin to change. A bright red uncirculated 1990D penny with sharp detail and no contact marks may be worth a few dollars to a collector filling a Lincoln Cent album. But condition is everything. The difference between an MS-65 and an MS-67 grade can be hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Mint state grading is extremely strict. A coin graded MS-60 may technically be uncirculated, but it could have many contact marks and poor eye appeal. An MS-65 coin, often called gem, will have strong luster and only minor imperfections. By the time we reach MS-67 or MS-68, we are talking about coins that look nearly flawless under magnification. These coins are rare not because they were made in small numbers, but because very few survive in such pristine condition. Most coins were tossed into bags, transported, rolled, and distributed. During that process they hit each other, causing tiny nicks and abrasions. That's why high-grade survivors are so scarce. One major factor that influences the price of modern Lincoln cents like the 1990D is color designation. Collectors use 3 main color categories: brown, BN, red-brown, RB, and red, RD. Brown coins have oxidized significantly and lost their original copper brightness. Red-brown coins show partial original color. Fully red coins maintain the bright copper shine as they appeared when first struck. A 1990D penny graded MS-67 RD is far more desirable than the same grade coin designated brown. This difference alone can multiply value many times over. And now let's address the big question that excites viewers, the idea of a 1990D penny being worth $98 million. There is no verified auction record supporting such a value. In the entire history of numismatics, only the rarest and most historically significant coins, like the 1933 Double Eagle or unique early American pieces, approach multi-million-dollar sales. A standard 1990D cent, even in top condition, has sold in the thousands of dollars range at most. The $98 million claim likely originates from exaggerated headlines or misunderstandings designed to generate clicks and attention. However, while that number is unrealistic, the fact remains that certain rare error coins from around that era have sold for significant sums. One of the most famous 1990 varieties is actually not from Denver but from San Francisco, the 1990 NOS proof penny. Proof coins are specially made for collectors using polished dies and planchets. They feature mirror-like surfaces and sharp details. Proof cents from San Francisco normally carry an S mint mark. However, in 1990, a small number of proof coins were struck without the S mint mark due to a die preparation error. These coins are extremely rare and have sold for tens of thousands of dollars depending on grade. This example shows how a simple missing mint mark can dramatically change value. Back to the 1990D specifically, collectors also search for doubled die varieties. A doubled die occurs when the die used to strike the coin receives a misaligned impression during its creation, causing visible doubling in the design elements. On some Lincoln cents, doubling can be seen in the date, the word Liberty, or in God We Trust. Not all doubling is valuable. Machine doubling is common and usually worthless, but true doubled dies can command premiums if strong and verified. Another fascinating area is transitional errors. Although 1990 cents were officially copper-plated zinc weighing 2.5 grams, occasionally coins from other compositions have been discovered. For example, if a leftover bronze planchet from earlier years accidentally remained in the system, it could be struck with a 1990 die. Such a coin would weigh approximately 3.11 grams instead of 2.5 grams. These transitional errors are rare and have sold for thousands of dollars because they represent mint mistakes that escape detection. There are also off-center strikes where the coin is not properly aligned between the dies, resulting in a design that is partially missing. If the date remains visible and the off-center strike is dramatic, say 30% or more, collectors often pay strong premiums. Broad strikes, clipped planchets, and multiple strikes are other types of errors that can significantly increase value. Each error type has its own rarity scale and collector demand. The economic background of 1990 also adds historical interest. The United States was entering a recession period in the early 1990s. Inflation, metal prices, and production costs all influenced minting decisions. Even the decision to continue producing billions of cents has been debated in modern times because the cost of manufacturing a penny has at times exceeded its face value. The 1990 penny represents an era before digital payments dominated commerce, when physical coins were essential for everyday transactions. When evaluating your own 1990 penny, the first step is to check condition. Look for wear on Lincoln's cheek and jawline. These are high points that show wear first. Examine the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. Check whether the steps and columns are clearly defined. Look for luster that flows across the surface when tilted under light. Then weigh the coin carefully. A standard example should weigh 2.5 grams. If it weighs significantly more or less, it may warrant further investigation. Use a magnifying glass to check for doubling, die cracks, or unusual features. If you believe you have a high-grade or error coin, the next step is professional authentication. Third-party grading companies encapsulate coins in tamper-evident holders and assign official grades. Once graded, coins can be sold through auction houses, coin dealers, or online marketplaces. Certified high-grade modern coins often appeal to collectors building registry sets, competitive collections ranked by grading services. The market for Lincoln cents is one of the most active segments in U.S. coin collecting. Because the series spans from 1909 to today, it attracts both beginner and advanced collectors. Many start by filling albums from pocket change, searching through rolls from banks, and gradually upgrading pieces as their knowledge grows. As we continue going deeper into the world of the 1990 Lincoln cent, now we need to explore something that many casual collectors overlook but serious numismatists study very carefully: population data and survival rates. Because when billions of coins are minted, the real question is not how many were made, but how many survive today in truly exceptional condition. The Denver Mint struck more than 4.9 billion 1990 cents. On paper, that sounds like an endless supply. But once those coins left the mint, they were packed into bags, loaded into armored trucks, shipped to Federal Reserve banks, rolled into paper wrappers, and distributed across the entire country. During this process, coins banged into each other repeatedly. Even before entering circulation, many were already marked with tiny nicks and abrasions. This is why population reports from major grading services tell a fascinating story. When coins are submitted for grading, they are evaluated and assigned a numerical grade. Over time, these grading services publish population reports that show how many coins of each date and mint mark have been graded at each level. For a modern coin like the 1990 penny, you might see thousands graded in MS65 or MS66 condition. But as the grade increases, the numbers drop dramatically. MS67 examples are much scarcer. MS68 examples may be extremely limited. And MS69 examples, if any exist, are nearly unheard of for circulation. Strike Lincoln cents from that era. This sharp drop-off in high-grade populations is what creates significant premiums. Even though billions were made, very few survive in near-perfect condition. A collector building a high-end registry set wants the absolute best-known example. If only a handful of MS68 red coins exist, competition can drive prices into the thousands of dollars. This is how a coin with a face value of 1 cent can realistically sell for several $1,000s, not because it is rare in general, but because it is rare in perfection. Another important factor to understand is strike quality. Not every coin is struck equally. Some dies wear out over time. When dies become worn, details appear softer. For the 1990 penny, collectors examine Lincoln's hair details, the sharpness of his coat lines, and the clarity of the Lincoln Memorial columns on the reverse. Strong strikes with full detail are preferred. Weak strikes may reduce a coin's eye appeal and grade potential. Even microscopic differences can influence value dramatically at the top end of the grading scale. Let's also talk about luster, because luster is one of the most beautiful features of an uncirculated coin. When a coin is freshly struck, metal flows outward from the center under immense pressure, creating microscopic lines that reflect light in a distinctive way. This produces what collectors call cartwheel luster, where light appears to spin around the surface as the coin is tilted. On copper-plated zinc cents like the 1990D, original red luster is highly desirable. Over time, exposure to air, moisture, and environmental contaminants causes oxidation. This turns the coin brown. While brown coins are not necessarily undesirable, they typically carry lower premiums compared to fully red examples. Storage plays a massive role in preserving value. Many 1990D pennies were stored in original mint rolls by collectors who anticipated future appreciation. Some were kept in albums. Others remained in bank vaults for years. Coins stored improperly in humid conditions may develop spots, toning, or corrosion. Zinc core cents are especially vulnerable because if the copper plating is breached, the zinc underneath can corrode quickly, leading to bubbling or pitting on the surface. Such damage significantly reduces value. Now let's move into advanced error analysis. One type of error that fascinates collectors is the die crack. As dies strike coins repeatedly, stress fractures can form in the die. These cracks transfer onto coins as raised lines. While minor die cracks are common and usually add little value, dramatic cracks known as cuts can be more desirable. A cut occurs when a piece of the die breaks away near the edge, leaving a raised blob of metal on the coin. If a 1990D penny exhibits a large cut, especially one that is visually striking, collectors may pay a premium. There are also repunched mint marks in earlier series, though by 1990 mint marks were punched into the master die rather than individually into working dies, reducing the likelihood of classic repunched mint mark varieties. However, collectors still examine the D-mint mark closely for anomalies. Any unusual positioning, doubling, or distortion must be carefully studied to determine whether it is a true variety or simply machine doubling. Machine doubling, by the way, is extremely common and often misunderstood. It occurs during the strike when the die shifts slightly, creating a flat, shelf-like doubling effect. This type of doubling does not significantly increase value. True doubled die errors originate during the die creation process and show distinct, separated doubling with rounded edges. Distinguishing between the two requires magnification and experience. Another intriguing possibility involves wrong planchet errors. Imagine if a planchet intended for another denomination accidentally entered the cent press. A 1990D cent struck on a dime planchet, for example, would be smaller, silver-colored, and missing some design elements. Such dramatic wrong planchet errors are rare and can sell for thousands of dollars depending on condition and visual appeal. We should also address the long-term investment perspective. Modern coins like the 1990D penny are sometimes debated among investors. Some argue that because so many were saved in uncirculated condition, future appreciation may be limited. Others point out that as time passes, attrition reduces the number of pristine examples. Coins get spent, damaged, lost, or destroyed. Over decades, even common coins can become scarcer in high grade. The key factor is demand. As long as collectors continue building Lincoln Cents sets, there will be demand for the finest known examples. The Lincoln Cents series remains one of the most widely collected in the United States. Generations of collectors began their hobby searching through pocket change. The emotional connection to Abraham Lincoln, one of America's most revered presidents, adds to the coin's appeal. The 1990D penny is part of that continuous historical thread, linking modern America to a design first introduced in 1909. Let's imagine a real-world scenario. A person searches through an old jar of pennies inherited from a relative. Among thousands of circulated brown cents, they find a bright red 1990D coin that appears flawless. Under magnification, there are minimal contact marks. The luster is strong. The strike is sharp. They submit it for grading. Months later, it returns graded MS68 red. Suddenly, that 1-cent coin could be worth several $1,000s in a competitive auction environment. Stories like this fuel the excitement of coin collecting. However, it's equally important to manage expectations. The overwhelming majority of 1990D pennies in circulation are worth exactly 1 cent. Even most uncirculated examples are worth only a small premium. Claims of $98 million valuations are unrealistic and unsupported by credible auction data. The true maximum prices realized for top condition coins are in the thousands. Impressive, yes, but not astronomical. Still, the beauty of numismatics lies not only in extreme values but in discovery, history, and preservation. Every coin tells a story. The 1990 penny tells the story of late 20th century America, of mass production, economic shifts, technological minting advancements, and the enduring legacy of Abraham Lincoln, and we are not finished yet. In the next section, we can dive even deeper into real auction case studies, detailed grading breakdown comparisons between MS65, MS66, MS67, and MS68 examples, plus an exploration of how to properly photograph and sell high-grade coins for maximum profit. Now, as we move even deeper into the fascinating world of the 1990 Lincoln cent, let's slow everything down and analyze real-world auction behavior, collector psychology, and how modern coin markets truly function behind the scenes. Because understanding value is not just about mintage numbers or metal composition, it's about supply, demand, competition, grading standards, timing, and presentation. Imagine two identical 1990 pennies struck on the same day in Denver in 1990. Both were brilliant red when they left the mint. Both had sharp details and full luster. Now fast forward 35 years. One of those coins was tossed into circulation immediately. It passed through grocery stores, gas stations, vending machines, and pockets. It rubbed against nickels and quarters, picked up scratches, lost its luster, and eventually turned brown. That coin today is worth exactly 1 cent. The other coin, however, was pulled from a fresh mint roll by a careful collector in 1990. It was placed into a protective holder, stored in a dry environment, and never touched by bare hands. That coin maintained its blazing red color, sharp strike, and clean surfaces. Decades later, it was submitted to a grading service and received a grade of MS67 or higher. That single decision, to preserve rather than spend, created a dramatic difference in value. Instead of 1 cent, that coin might now be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars depending on its exact grade. This illustrates a key concept in numismatics: condition rarity versus absolute rarity. The 1990 penny is not rare in total numbers. Billions were produced. But coins surviving in elite condition are rare. And collectors competing for registry sets are often willing to pay strong premiums for the finest known example. Registry sets are competitive online rankings hosted by grading companies. Collectors register their certified coins and compete for the highest overall grades. If only a few MS68 red examples exist, those become trophies within the community. Now let's discuss real pricing behavior. When a high-grade 1990 penny appears at auction, the final price depends on several variables. First, the assigned grade. The difference between MS66 and MS67 might be significant, but the difference between MS67 and MS68 can be exponential. Second, eye appeal. Even within the same grade, some coins are more visually attractive than others. Strong luster, minimal spots, and even toning can influence bidding. Third, timing. If two serious registry collectors both need that exact coin to upgrade their set, bidding competition can drive prices higher than average market value. It's important to understand that auction prices fluctuate. A coin that sells for $3,000 one year might sell for $2,200 another year depending on demand. Markets are dynamic. They reflect collector interest at that moment in time. Now let's carefully examine the physical specifications of the 1990 cent in detail. The coin weighs 2.5 grams and is composed of 97.5% zinc with a 2.5% copper plating. Its diameter is 19 millimeters. The edge is plain, meaning it has no reading like a dime or quarter. The orientation is metal alignment, meaning if you flip the coin top to bottom, the reverse appears upright. These small technical details may seem basic, but they are critical when identifying wrong planchet or transitional errors. For example, if you find a 1990 cent weighing 3.11 grams instead of 2.5 grams, that could indicate it was struck on a leftover bronze planchet from before the 1982 composition change. Such transitional errors are rare and highly desirable. They represent a minting mistake where older metal stock accidentally entered production. Verification would require precise weighing and possibly metallurgical testing, but confirmed examples can sell for thousands of dollars. Another potential error involves struck-through coins. During the minting process, foreign material such as grease or debris can become trapped between the die and planchet. This creates missing or distorted design elements. Minor grease-filled die errors are common and usually add little value, but dramatic struck-through errors can attract collectors. Let's also discuss environmental damage, because many people mistakenly believe discoloration or unusual surfaces mean rarity. Zinc core scents are particularly sensitive. If moisture penetrates the copper plating, the zinc underneath corrodes and expands. This creates bubbling, pitting, or peeling. Unfortunately, this type of damage significantly reduces value. It is not considered a mint error, it is post-mint damage. When examining a 1990D penny, collectors should use proper lighting and magnification. A 5x to 10x loupe is sufficient for most inspections. Avoid touching the coin surface directly. Hold it by the edges. Even small fingerprints can permanently damage the copper surface over time. Now let's explore how to sell a high-grade 1990D penny if you believe you have one. First, confirm authenticity and grade through a reputable third-party grading service. Raw, ungraded coins rarely achieve top market value because buyers lack confidence in the grade. Once certified, research recent auction results for coins of the same grade and color designation. Choose the right selling platform. Major auction houses are ideal for high-value certified coins, while online marketplaces may work for mid-range examples. Professional photography also matters. High-resolution images with proper lighting that highlight luster and surface quality attract more bidders. Poor images can reduce final price significantly. And now let's address the psychology behind viral claims like a $98 million penny. Sensational headlines often exaggerate or misinterpret rare coin stories. Sometimes a different coin series is confused with a common date. Sometimes a proof error is mistaken for a circulation strike. Sometimes values from entirely different denominations are incorrectly attached to ordinary coins. While it is exciting to imagine a life-changing discovery in pocket change, realistic expectations are essential. However, that doesn't mean treasure hunting is pointless. Searching rolls of pennies from banks can still yield interesting finds: wheat cents, older dates, occasional errors, and even silver coins mistakenly mixed in other denominations. The thrill of discovery keeps collectors engaged. The 1990D penny also represents a transitional era in American coinage. By 1990, coin production technology was highly automated. Laser technology, improved die preparation, and modern quality control systems were in place. Yet despite technological advances, mint errors still occurred. That unpredictability is part of what makes coin collecting endlessly fascinating. Let's imagine the journey of a single 1990D penny. It begins as molten metal refined into zinc strips. It is punched into blank discs. It is plated with copper. It is struck with thousands of pounds of pressure between engraved dies. It is counted, bagged, shipped, rolled, distributed, spent, and circulated. Perhaps it buys a newspaper in 1992. Perhaps it helps complete a cash transaction in 1998. Perhaps it sits forgotten in a jar for decades. Eventually, someone rediscovers it and wonders whether it could be valuable. That curiosity fuels the entire hobby, and while most examples remain common, the few that survive in extraordinary condition or display dramatic errors become prized artifacts of modern minting history. We are building layer upon layer of understanding, from composition and design to grading, errors, auction behavior, preservation, and market psychology. And there is still more to explore: deep case studies comparing specific graded populations, advanced discussion of zinc corrosion science, long-term market forecasting, and strategies for building a complete Lincoln cent set from 1909 to modern issues. When you are ready, we will continue with Part 5 and go even further into advanced collector strategies, registry competition analysis, and long-term appreciation potential as we move toward completing your full ultra-length YouTube script. Now, as we continue even deeper into this exploration of the 1990D Lincoln cent, let's move into the long-term collector strategy side of the story, because value is not just about what a coin sells for today, it's about how collectors approach it over decades. The 1990D penny sits in an interesting position within the Lincoln Memorial series. It is modern enough to be extremely common, yet old enough that pristine examples are no longer being freshly released from the mint. Every year that passes slightly reduces the supply of untouched, high-quality coins. Think about attrition. Coins get lost, melted, damaged, corroded, or simply mishandled. Billions were minted, yes, but billions are not preserved in MS-67 or MS-68 condition. Many were spent immediately. Many were stored poorly. Zinc core scents especially suffer over time because once the copper plating is compromised, deterioration accelerates. So although 4.9 billion sounds overwhelming, the number of elite condition survivors is a completely different figure. Now let's talk about registry competition in more detail. Registry sets are one of the biggest drivers of price spikes in modern coins. Collectors build complete datemint sets certified by grading companies. Points are assigned based on grade. Higher grade equals more points. If a collector owns the finest known 1990D penny graded MS68 red and there are only a handful in existence, that coin becomes strategically important in maintaining a top-ranked set. When another serious collector tries to compete, bidding wars can occur. This explains why some modern coins with massive mintages still reach surprisingly high prices. It's not about rarity in general circulation, it's about rarity at the highest certified grade. And once population reports show that only a limited number exist at that level, collectors may aggressively pursue them. Now let's analyze grade tiers carefully. A typical circulated 1990D penny, value 1 cent. An uncirculated example pulled from a roll but showing minor contact marks, maybe 10 to 50 cents. A certified MS65 red coin, perhaps a few dollars. An MS66 red, slightly more. MS67 red, potentially hundreds. MS68 red, possibly thousands depending on demand and timing. The jump from one level to the next can multiply value dramatically, but here is something very important: grading standards evolve slightly over time. What was considered MS67 20 years ago might not pass as MS67 today. As grading becomes stricter or more consistent, the supply of top-grade coins can stabilize. This affects long-term pricing. Another factor influencing value is appeal beyond the numeric grade. Two coins both graded MS67 red may not look identical. One might have blazing luster and perfectly even color. Another might have small carbon spots or slightly muted shine. Advanced collectors often prefer coins with superior eye appeal. Even within the same grade, carbon spots are common on copper-plated zinc cents. These small dark spots develop due to oxidation or contaminants during storage. Even a tiny spot can prevent a coin from achieving the highest grades. That is why truly spotless examples are scarce. Let's move into long-term investment analysis. Some collectors believe modern Lincoln cents, including the 1990D, have limited upside because so many were saved. Others argue that high-grade certified examples have proven track records of appreciation due to registry demand. The truth likely lies somewhere in between. Common grades may remain affordable for decades. Elite grades with limited populations may continue to command premiums. However, it's critical to understand liquidity. A coin valued at several $1,000s must find the right buyer willing to pay that price. Auction exposure helps, but markets fluctuate. Coins are not guaranteed investments. They are collectible assets whose values depend on demand. Now let's discuss how to build a smart collecting strategy around coins like the 1990D penny. One approach is roll searching, obtaining bank rolls of pennies and examining them for high-grade examples or errors. While finding an MS68 candidate in circulation today is extremely unlikely, occasionally unsearched rolls stored for decades appear on the secondary market. Another approach is purchasing original mint sets from 1990 and carefully examining the cents inside. Sometimes coins from these sets grade highly if well preserved. Storage is absolutely critical. If you acquire a high-grade 1990D penny, protect it properly. Use inert holders made from mylar or archival quality materials. Avoid PVC plastics. Store coins in a cool, dry environment with stable temperature and humidity. Even slight environmental fluctuations can affect copper surfaces over long periods. Now let's explore something fascinating: the psychology of discovery. Imagine a viewer watching this video right now who goes to check an old coin jar. They begin sorting through pennies. Most are worn brown examples. But suddenly they find a bright red 1990D penny that looks nearly flawless. Their heart races. Could this be valuable? They weigh it 2.5 grams. They examine it under magnification. No visible wear. Sharp strike. Strong luster. That moment of possibility is what makes coin collecting exciting. Even if that coin ultimately grades MS65 and is worth only a few dollars, the experience of learning, searching, and discovering has value. The hobby teaches patience, observation, and historical appreciation. Let's also briefly address the metal value myth. Because the 1990D penny is mostly zinc with thin copper plating, its intrinsic metal value is less than 1 cent under normal market conditions. Pre-1982 copper pennies sometimes have higher intrinsic value due to copper content, but melting US cents for metal is illegal. So for 1990D coins, value depends entirely on collectible demand rather than metal content. Now consider the broader Lincoln cent timeline. The 1990D penny is part of the Lincoln Memorial design era that lasted from 1959 to 2008. After 2008, the reverse design changed to commemorate Lincoln's bicentennial and eventually to the Union Shield design in 2010. That means the 1990D penny belongs to a completed design chapter. Some collectors prefer assembling complete memorial reverse sets, making every date and mint mark important for completion. Even though 1990D is common, every complete set requires one. And when collectors upgrade sets, they seek better condition coins, creating steady demand. Another interesting concept is generational collecting. People who were children in 1990 may feel nostalgic about coins from their youth. As they reach higher earning years, some return to hobbies they enjoyed earlier. This can create renewed interest in modern era coins. Now let's confront the dramatic claim again, the idea of a $98 million penny. It's important for viewers to understand the difference between viral myths and documented auction records. While extremely rare historical coins like early American gold pieces or unique pattern coins have sold for millions, no standard 1990D penny has ever approached such numbers. Claims of astronomical values often stem from confusion with entirely different coins or exaggerated online content. However, the realistic top-end potential of several $1,000s for a top population certified example is still remarkable when you consider the face value is just 1 cent. That alone makes it an intriguing coin. Let's imagine the future. In another 30 or 40 years, pristine 1990D pennies may be even scarcer in high grade due to gradual attrition. Registry collectors may still compete. Or collecting trends may shift toward older coins. Markets evolve. The key lesson is education. The more you understand about grading, minting, and preservation, the better decisions you can make. We have now explored production, grading, errors, market dynamics, storage science, registry psychology, investment considerations, and realistic value ranges. Yet there is still room to go deeper. We can analyze real case examples of certified auction sales, simulate step-by-step grading breakdown comparisons under magnification, and explore advanced error authentication techniques. Now, as we continue even further into this deep and detailed journey surrounding the 1990D Lincoln cent, we're going to move into something even more advanced: real grading breakdown simulations, microscopic evaluation standards, and a step-by-step walkthrough of how a professional grader would analyze a coin like this under controlled lighting and magnification. Imagine you are sitting at a grading desk. In front of you is a 1990D penny submitted for certification. The coin is removed carefully from its flip and placed under a high-intensity grading lamp. The first thing you evaluate is overall eye appeal at arm's length. Before magnification, before focusing on tiny marks, you ask yourself one question: does this coin look exceptional? Does it have strong, vibrant luster? Is the color bright and original red, or does it lean toward red-brown? Does anything immediately distract the eye? Next comes surface preservation. Under 5x magnification, you rotate the coin slowly. You look at Lincoln's cheek. This is one of the highest and most exposed points on the design. Even the smallest contact mark here can limit the maximum possible grade. You check the jawline, the coat shoulder, and the area in front of Lincoln's face. Because the 1990D was struck in huge quantities and stored in bulk bags, contact marks are extremely common. That's why coins that are nearly mark-free become rare at higher grade levels. Then you shift to luster analysis. As you tilt the coin, you look for full cartwheel luster radiating across the surface. A coin with broken or dull luster may indicate slight friction or improper storage. Zinc core cents sometimes exhibit muted luster compared to earlier bronze issues, so strong brilliance stands out immediately. And now let's move to strike quality. Although modern minting technology in 1990 was advanced, dies still wore down over time. On a sharply struck 1990D penny, Lincoln's hair strands should show crisp detail. The bow tie and coat line should be well defined. On the reverse, examine the Lincoln Memorial columns. Even though they are tiny, strong strikes reveal distinct vertical lines. Weak strikes blur these details slightly. Professional graders then inspect for spots. Copper-plated zinc cents are especially prone to tiny dark carbon flecks. Even one noticeable spot in a prime focal area can reduce the grade from MS67 to MS66 or lower. Spot-free surfaces dramatically increase the odds of reaching elite grades. After obverse evaluation, attention shifts to the reverse. The open fields around the memorial are carefully checked for hairlines or abrasions. Because fields reflect light strongly, any imperfection becomes obvious. High-grade coins must exhibit very clean fields. Now let's simulate grade differences. An MS65 1990D red may have several small contact marks on Lincoln's cheek and minor spotting but still retain strong luster and nowhere. An MS66 red example will have fewer marks, stronger eye appeal, and minimal spotting. An MS67 red coin must appear nearly flawless to the naked eye with only microscopic imperfections under magnification. An MS68 red coin is extremely rare, almost pristine surfaces, blazing luster, virtually no visible marks, and outstanding eye appeal. This is where prices can rise dramatically. The difference between MS67 and MS68 might be just one tiny mark in the wrong place. That's how precise modern grading can be. And now let's move into advanced authentication of error coins. Suppose someone believes they have a doubled die 1990D penny. The first step is to confirm whether the doubling shows true separation with rounded edges, a sign of genuine doubled die, or flat, shelf-like doubling, which indicates machine doubling. True doubled dies will affect multiple design elements consistently. Machine doubling often appears only in isolated areas. If a coin appears to be struck on the wrong planchet, weight is critical. A precise digital scale capable of measuring to at least 0.01 grams is required. Standard weight should be 2.5 grams. A significant deviation could indicate an off-metal error. Diameter measurement and edge inspection also help confirm authenticity. Another rare possibility is a broad strike, where the coin was struck without the retaining collar. In such cases, the coin may appear slightly larger in diameter with a thinner edge and no defined rim. Dramatic examples attract collector interest. Now let's explore auction case behavior more deeply. Imagine an MS68 red 1990D penny appears at a major auction house. The population report shows only a handful graded at that level with none higher. 2 registry collectors need it to maintain top ranking. Bidding begins conservatively but escalates quickly. Emotion enters the equation. Competitive pride plays a role. Final hammer price exceeds expectations. That result then becomes a new reference point for market value. However, if the same coin appears again shortly afterward with less competitive bidding, it may sell for less. That's why coin markets are influenced by timing and collector participation. Let's talk about long-term preservation science in even greater depth. Copper reacts with oxygen and sulfur compounds in the air. Even microscopic contaminants can cause discoloration. That's why serious collectors use silica gel packs in storage boxes to reduce humidity. Some use safe deposit boxes in climate-controlled environments. Direct sunlight should always be avoided, as ultraviolet exposure can accelerate surface changes. Handling is another critical factor. The natural oils in human skin can permanently stain copper surfaces. Always hold coins by the edges. Never clean a coin. Cleaning removes original surface texture and destroys value instantly. Even gentle rubbing can leave hairlines visible under magnification. Now imagine fast-forwarding 20 or 30 years into the future. The number of pristine 1990D pennies will likely decline further due to accidental damage, improper storage, and simple neglect. Registry sets may continue driving demand for finest known examples. Or collecting interests may shift to earlier eras. Predicting exact future value is impossible, but high-grade scarcity often supports long-term premiums. Let's examine the broader economic environment of 1990 again. The United States was entering a mild recession in the early 1990s. Technology was expanding, but digital payments were not yet dominant. Cash was king. Coins like the 1990D penny were heavily used in everyday transactions. That cultural context makes surviving pristine examples even more impressive. There is also educational value in studying such a coin. It teaches how modern minting works. It illustrates how grading standards influence markets. It demonstrates the difference between myth and documented value. It shows how condition can transform a 1-cent coin into a 4-figure collectible, and still, we have more depth we can explore, including a comparison between 1990 Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco issues, analysis of proof versus circulation strikes, and a breakdown of how professional coin photography enhances auction results. We are building an incredibly detailed, layered narrative, from the mint floor in Denver to grading rooms, to auction floors, to collectors' vaults. Now, as we continue pushing even deeper into the full story of the 1990 D. Lincoln cent, let's expand the lens and compare it carefully with the other 1990 issues, because understanding the full landscape of that year gives more clarity to where the Denver coin stands in terms of value, rarity, and collector demand. In 1990, Lincoln cents were struck at 3 mints: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Philadelphia coins carried no mint mark. Denver coins carried the D mint mark beneath the date. San Francisco produced proof coins with the S mint mark. Each of these issues plays a different role in the market. The 1990 Philadelphia cent had a mintage also in the billions, making it extremely common in circulation. In circulated condition, like the Denver issue, it is worth face value. In high mint state grades with full red color, it can carry premiums, though the populations and survival patterns differ slightly from the Denver issue. Sometimes small differences in strike sharpness or storage patterns make one mint slightly more available in top grades than another. The 1990 D penny, because of Denver's production volume and handling methods, has its own grading profile. Some collectors believe Denver cents of certain years show slightly different strike characteristics compared to Philadelphia. These subtle variations can influence how often top-tier grades appear in population reports. Then we come to the San Francisco proofs. Proof coins are struck using specially polished dies and planchets. They are made primarily for collectors and sold in protective sets. Proof cents from 1990 typically show deep mirror-like fields and frosted devices, creating a cameo contrast. Because proofs are handled differently and packaged individually, they often survive in higher condition more easily than circulation strikes. However, proofs are graded on a separate scale, PR or PF instead of MS, and even tiny imperfections can reduce grade. One of the most famous varieties from that year is the 1990 NOS proof cent, where the mint mark was accidentally omitted. That variety is extremely rare compared to the billions of circulation coins and has sold for tens of thousands of dollars in top condition. It's important not to confuse that rare proof error with a normal circulation strike 1990 D penny. The existence of that variety sometimes fuels exaggerated claims about other 1990 cents. Now let's move into population report analysis more deeply. Imagine reviewing grading data for 1990 D cents. You might find thousands graded MS65 and MS66 red. As you climb to MS67 red, the numbers shrink significantly. By MS68 red, populations may be very small. If the population report shows only a handful at MS68 and none higher, that creates what collectors call a top pop coin, meaning top of the population. Top pop coins often command premiums far above lower grade examples. However, population numbers can change over time. If collectors submit more coins and additional MS68 examples are discovered, the scarcity premium may soften. That's why market value is dynamic. It evolves with new discoveries and grading activity. Let's also analyze proof versus circulation strike surfaces in greater detail. A proof coin from San Francisco in 1990 will have mirror-like fields because the dies were specially polished and often struck more than once to bring up detail. A circulation strike 1990 D penny was struck once at high speed for mass production. The fields will not be mirrored, instead, they show standard mint luster. Understanding this difference is essential when evaluating coins that appear unusually shiny. Some circulation coins may appear glossy due to cleaning, but cleaning destroys original surface texture and drastically reduces value. Now we'll examine color stability in copper-plated zinc cents more scientifically. The copper plating on a 1990 D penny is extremely thin. Over time, oxygen exposure causes oxidation. Even microscopic breaks in plating allow the zinc core to react, creating surface irregularities. That's why flawless red examples decades later are difficult to find. They require nearly ideal storage conditions. This leads into a deeper discussion of toning. While many collectors prefer bright red copper, some appreciate natural toning if it enhances eye appeal. However, uneven dark spotting is generally considered negative. Natural, even color progression may be acceptable, but original red designation typically brings the highest premiums. Now let's explore realistic maximum value scenarios. A circulated 1990D penny remains worth 1 cent. An attractive uncirculated example from a mint roll may bring small premiums. Certified MS-67 red coins can sell for strong 3-figure amounts depending on demand. Certified MS-68 red coins, especially if population is very limited, can reach into the thousands. That is the realistic upper tier based on historical market behavior. The idea of a $98 million 1990D penny does not align with documented numismatic auction history. Coins that have achieved multi-million-dollar sales are typically extremely rare historic pieces, early federal coinage, unique patterns, or coins with extraordinary historical significance. The 1990D penny, while interesting and collectible, does not belong in that category. However, even a few $1,000s for a 1-cent coin is remarkable and worth understanding. Now let's simulate a side-by-side comparison between a raw coin and a certified coin. Suppose you own what appears to be a flawless 1990D penny. If you try to sell it raw, buyers may hesitate. They might offer modest amounts due to uncertainty about grade. But once certified and encapsulated with an official MS-68 red label, confidence increases dramatically. The plastic holder itself doesn't create value. The grade and authentication due. This demonstrates why third-party grading has become so influential in modern coin markets. It standardizes quality assessment and provides liquidity. Registry competition depends on certified coins, not raw coins. Another advanced concept is the upgrade game. Some collectors repeatedly submit coins hoping for a higher grade. If a coin graded MS-67 is resubmitted and upgraded to MS-68, its value may multiply. This introduces risk and reward dynamics within grading decisions. Let's also talk about counterfeit risk, even though modern Lincoln cents are rarely counterfeited due to low intrinsic value. However, altered coins do exist. For example, someone could remove a mint mark from a proof coin to imitate a rare variety. Careful examination under magnification can reveal tool marks or surface disturbances. That's another reason authentication is crucial for higher value coins. Now imagine a viewer inspired by this series deciding to build a complete Lincoln Memorial cent set from 1959 to 2008. The 1990D is one piece of that puzzle. While common, finding a premium quality example adds satisfaction to completing the set. Collecting is not always about extreme rarity, it's about completeness, quality, and personal achievement. As we continue building this ultra-detailed narrative, we can still go further into long-term economic modeling, analyzing how inflation affects collectible values, comparing the 1990D penny to other modern issues that have spiked unexpectedly, and even exploring the future of the 1-cent denomination itself as production costs continue to rise. We are layering knowledge piece by piece. Minting science, grading precision, auction psychology, preservation methods, registry competition, realistic value ceilings, and myth versus documented fact. This deep and extended exploration of the 1990D Lincoln cent, we're going to step back and look at the broader economic, cultural, and even philosophical dimensions of this small coin, because understanding why people care about a 1-cent piece decades after it was minted reveals something powerful about human nature, collecting, scarcity, and value itself. Let's begin with economic reality. By 1990, the purchasing power of 1 cent had already diminished significantly compared to earlier decades. Inflation throughout the 20th century steadily reduced what a penny could buy. In the early 1900s, 1 cent had meaningful buying power. By 1990, it was already mostly symbolic in daily commerce, used primarily to make exact change. Yet despite declining purchasing power, the United States Mint continued producing billions of cents annually because the coin remained embedded in pricing systems, tax calculations, and cash transactions. The 1990D penny represents the transitional moment before the digital payment revolution truly transformed everyday commerce. Credit cards were common, but not dominant. Online shopping was not yet mainstream. Mobile payments didn't exist. Physical coins were still essential. So while today many people question whether the penny should continue to exist, in 1990 it was still a workhorse of the economy. Now fast forward to the present. Production costs for pennies have, at times, exceeded their face value. The zinc and copper plating, manufacturing, labor, transportation all contribute to cost. Yet the penny survives partly due to tradition, partly due to rounding concerns, and partly due to cultural attachment. The 1990 penny is part of that ongoing debate about the future of low-denomination coinage, but here's where collecting changes everything. Once a coin moves from circulation to collectible status, its value disconnects from purchasing power and metal content. Instead, it becomes an object of study, preservation, and competition. The 1990 penny, although common, becomes a historical artifact of its era. It captures the design continuity of the Lincoln Memorial Reverse, the legacy of Abraham Lincoln's portrait, and the late 20th century minting process. Let's examine advanced collector case studies. Consider a registry collector who already owns MS-67 red examples of most Lincoln Memorial cents. They are chasing top ranking. The only missing upgrade is the 1990D. They monitor auction listings constantly. When a population report shows only a few MS-68 red coins available, tension rises. If a new MS-68 appears at auction, that becomes their opportunity. Competitive bidding follows. Final sale price exceeds typical expectations. That sale then influences market perception. Another case study involves roll hoarders from the 1990s. Some collectors saved unopened mint rolls of 1990 cents anticipating future appreciation. Decades later, those rolls are opened and searched for high-grade candidates. Occasionally, a gem-quality coin emerges. Most are average uncirculated examples, but the hunt continues because even one MS-68 can justify the effort. Now let's dive deeper into grading philosophy. Modern grading is extremely nuanced. A difference invisible to the casual observer can mean a full grade point. Graders look for microscopic disturbances in the copper plating. They examine the frost on devices. They assess whether luster is interrupted by subtle friction. This level of scrutiny explains why perfect coins are so rare. There's also the concept of market grading versus technical grading. Technical grading focuses strictly on physical imperfections. Market grading considers overall eye appeal and how the coin will be perceived by buyers. A coin with outstanding color and luster may receive a slightly more favorable evaluation because it is more desirable in the marketplace. Now let's reflect on value perception. Why does a flawless 1990D penny excite collectors when billions exist? The answer lies in selective scarcity. Humans value what is difficult to obtain. Even if total production was enormous, the difficulty of finding a near-perfect survivor decades later creates a psychological premium. There's also emotional connection. Abraham Lincoln remains one of the most respected presidents in American history. His portrait on the obverse links every 1990D penny to national identity and heritage. The Lincoln Memorial Reverse, used from 1959 through 2008, represents nearly half a century of design continuity. Collectors assembling data mint sets feel a sense of completion when every slot is filled, including the 1990D. Now let's explore economic forecasting for modern cents. If penny production were ever discontinued in the future, earlier issues could gain renewed attention from collectors. While common dates like 1990D would still remain abundant, interest in completing historical sets might increase. On the other hand, if collecting trends shift heavily toward earlier coins, modern issues might experience slower growth. Markets are influenced by generational preferences. Another advanced angle is the zinc longevity issue. Because 1990D pennies are zinc core coins, long-term preservation poses challenges. If environmental conditions deteriorate, zinc corrosion may destroy many examples over decades. This natural attrition could gradually reduce high-quality populations. Now imagine an advanced future scenario. Decades from now, most surviving 1990D pennies are heavily worn or environmentally damaged. Only a limited number of pristine, certified MS-68 red coins remain in protective holders. Those coins become even more desirable within registry sets. Scarcity intensifies not because of original mintage, but because of survival quality. Let's also revisit myth versus documented record one final time. There is no verified evidence of a 1990D penny selling anywhere near $98 million. The highest values recorded for elite-grade examples are in the thousands, not millions. It is important for collectors to rely on credible auction data rather than sensational claims. However, the fact that a 1-cent coin can realistically sell for several $1,000s is impressive in its own right. Now imagine standing in front of a camera explaining all of this to viewers. You hold up a small copper-colored coin. At first glance, it seems insignificant. But then you explain its journey: minted in Denver in 1990, weighing 2.5 grams, composed of zinc with copper plating, struck billions of times, circulated through the American economy, saved by collectors, graded under microscopes, traded in auctions, debated online, and preserved in plastic holders. That tiny coin becomes a gateway to history, economics, metallurgy, artistry, psychology, and competition, and that is the deeper meaning behind the 1990D Lincoln cent. It's not about becoming instantly wealthy. It's about understanding how value is created, how rarity is defined, how condition transforms worth, and how something so small can hold such a complex story. We have now covered production, design, composition, grading precision, error varieties, auction dynamics, registry competition, preservation science, market psychology, economic forecasting, myth debunking, and philosophical reflection. Let's shift into a more dramatic, story-driven perspective and bring everything together in a powerful, immersive way, because beyond the technical details, the grading numbers, the auction records, and the population reports, the 1990D Lincoln cent carries a narrative that connects ordinary people to extraordinary possibilities. Imagine a quiet evening. Someone is cleaning out an old drawer in their home. Inside, there's a glass jar filled with pennies collected over decades. Most people would ignore it. But curiosity wins. The jar is poured onto a table. Copper and brown tones scatter across the surface. Dates from the 1960s, 70s, 80s, and 90s mixed together. Among them lies a 1990D penny, bright red, almost glowing compared to the others. At first glance, it looks like every other cent. Abraham Lincoln's familiar portrait faces right. "In God we trust" arches above. Liberty rests beside him. The small D mint mark sits beneath the date. Flip it over and there stands the Lincoln Memorial, a design that defined nearly 50 years of American coinage, but this one feels different. The color is stronger. The shine is sharper. Under a light, the luster spins like a cartwheel. There are no obvious scratches. No dark spots. No dullness. The heart begins to race. Could this be one of those rare high-grade examples? Could this small 1-cent coin actually be worth far more than its face value? This is where knowledge becomes power. Instead of believing exaggerated internet claims about impossible $98 million values, the informed collector knows what to look for. They weigh the coin, 2.5 grams. Correct. They examine Lincoln's cheek for marks. Minimal. They inspect the memorial columns. Sharp and defined. They check for carbon spotting. None visible. The coin is sent for professional grading. Weeks pass. Finally, the package arrives. The coin returns sealed in a protective holder. The label reads MS-67 red, not $98 million, but perhaps several $100s, maybe more depending on demand, and that is still extraordinary, because this story isn't about fantasy numbers. It's about transformation. It's about how understanding grading, preservation, and rarity can turn an overlooked coin into something meaningful. Now let's take this deeper. Imagine another scenario. A collector specializing in modern Lincoln cents decides to search original 1990 mint rolls that were stored in a bank vault for decades. Roll after roll is opened. Most coins show minor contact marks. But then, one appears nearly flawless. It's submitted and comes back MS-68 red, population extremely low. That coin enters a major auction. .2 registry collectors are watching. Both need that coin to secure top ranking. Bidding escalates rapidly. The final hammer price reaches into the thousands again, not millions, but still remarkable for a coin with a face value of 1 cent. This is how real value is created in the numismatic world, through condition, rarity, demand, and competition. Let's now step into advanced error hunting techniques for viewers who want to actively search. First, always examine coins under proper lighting. A single bright LED lamp can reveal luster breaks and surface marks. Second, use magnification between 5x and 10x. Higher magnification often exaggerates minor flaws and makes grading harder. Third, learn to distinguish true doubled dies from machine doubling. True doubling shows separation and rounded edges. Machine doubling looks flat and shelf-like. A fourth, weigh suspicious coins carefully. If a 1990D penny weighs significantly more or less than 2.5 grams, further investigation may be warranted. Fifth, never clean a coin. Cleaning permanently damages the surface and destroys collector value. Now let's reflect on something larger. Why does the idea of a rare penny capture public imagination so strongly? Because it represents hope. The idea that something small, overlooked, and common might secretly hold hidden value speaks to human curiosity. It makes people pay attention. It encourages learning. The 1990D penny teaches patience. It teaches observation. It teaches the difference between myth and documented fact. It also teaches that real value often lies not in sensational headlines, but in careful study and disciplined collecting. If you zoom out even further, the 1990D penny is part of a lineage that began in 1909 with the introduction of Lincoln's portrait. It survived world wars, economic depressions, recessions, inflation, and technological revolutions. It represents continuity, stability, a small constant in a changing world. Even today, decades after it was struck in Denver, it continues to circulate, to be discovered, to be graded, to be debated, and perhaps that is the true fascination, not whether it is worth $98 million, because it isn't, but whether among billions, you can find the one that stands above the rest in quality and preservation. That is the challenge, that is the hunt. That is the story. We have explored history, design, composition, minting science, grading precision, error varieties, registry competition, market psychology, preservation techniques, economic forecasting, and the human element of discovery, and yet there is still one final direction we can go, bringing everything together into a powerful closing segment that ties the past, present, and future of the 1990D Lincoln Cent into one unforgettable conclusion. Take a moment and picture the year 1990 again. The Denver Mint is operating at full speed. Massive presses strike planchet after planchet. Zinc cores coated in copper flash under bright factory lights as dies come down with tremendous force, imprinting Abraham Lincoln's portrait on one side and the Lincoln Memorial on the other. Billions of these coins pour into canvas bags, heavy and clinking, destined for banks across America. N01 at that moment is thinking about rarity. N01 is thinking about registry sets. N01 is imagining that decades later, collectors will study these coins under magnification, chasing perfection among billions. To the mint, it is simply production. To the economy, it is simply change, but time transforms objects. The 1990D penny leaves the mint and enters circulation. It might buy a newspaper. It might pass through a vending machine. It might sit in a child's piggy bank. Some are spent endlessly until their surfaces dull and turn brown. Others are quietly set aside, preserved in rolls, albums, drawers, or safety deposit boxes, and that is where the story splits. Most 1990D pennies today are worth exactly 1 cent. That is reality. They are common. They are abundant. They are still found in circulation, but a very small number survived in extraordinary condition, blazing red, nearly flawless, with sharp strike and undisturbed luster. Those few pieces became something different. Not rare in total production, but rare in preservation. Rare in quality. Rare in perfection, and that is the key lesson. Value in coin collecting is not always about how many were made. It is about how many survived in exceptional condition. It is about demand from collectors competing for the finest known examples. It is about registry rankings, grading precision, and It is about microscopic details invisible to the casual observer. When people hear dramatic claims like a $98 million penny, it sparks excitement. But the true story is more grounded, and in many ways, more impressive. A coin struck by the billions can still command hundreds or even thousands of dollars if it stands at the very top of the grading scale, not because of fantasy, but because of documented market behavior. A certified MS67 red 1990D penny can reach strong premiums. An MS68 red, with very limited population, can sell for thousands under the right auction conditions. That is extraordinary when compared to a face value of 1 cent, and yet, the deeper value goes beyond money. The 1990D penny teaches us about minting technology, zinc cores plated with copper, high-speed presses, die wear, and quality control. It teaches us about grading science, luster, strike, surface preservation, carbon spots, and microscopic imperfections. It teaches us about preservation, humidity control, proper storage, avoiding fingerprints, and cleaning. It teaches us about market psychology, competition, registry sets, auction timing, and collector pride. It teaches us to separate myth from fact. It teaches patience. It teaches attention to detail. It teaches that sometimes the smallest objects carry the most intricate stories. If you walk into a room and hold up a 1990 penny, most people will see something insignificant. But now you see differently. You see its composition: 97.5% zinc, 2.5% copper plating. You know it weighs 2.5 grams. You recognize the D mint mark as Denver. You understand the Lincoln Memorial reverse belongs to a design era spanning 1959 to 2008. You know what to check under magnification. You know how grading can transform value, and that knowledge changes everything, because collecting is not only about finding treasure. It is about understanding what you hold in your hand. It is about turning curiosity into expertise. It is about appreciating history hidden in everyday objects. The 1990 penny may never reach $98 million. But it doesn't need to. Its true worth lies in the story it carries, a story of American minting, of economic evolution, of preservation versus circulation, of perfection versus wear, of myth versus documented reality. Billions were struck, millions were spent, thousands were saved, only a handful achieved near perfection, and somewhere, perhaps in a jar, a roll, or an album, one of those exceptional coins still waits to be discovered. That possibility, small but real, keeps collectors searching. That possibility keeps the hobby alive. That possibility turns an ordinary penny into something extraordinary, and that is the complete story of the 1990 Lincoln Cent. The history, the design, the weight, the mint mark, the grading, the errors, the market, the myth, the reality.